In fact, I'll tell you what, Nikki, we'll give you 120. 120 grand, we'll give him £1 to exchange. But I do want to get in between exchange and completion, and I do want a 6-month period before we have to complete. The works, I think, will take 3, but I'm going to build in a contingency. Okay, so I have a bridging principle set up. The bridging company say, okay, fine, we will look at the house when you finish. Based on its valuation, we'll lend you, whatever, 65, 70%. Which will be enough to pay Vicky 120 and my investor back his 40. Or whatever the numbers are. Or maybe my investor who's put the 40 in doesn't quite get all of his money back till I sell it at the back end. We then complete after the refurb. Now, to allow us to pay you your 120, we've got a bridge out at that point to pay the money, correct? So our bridge clock, interest ticking clock, starts then. If I can line a buyer up for that property, I bought it off Nikki, but I'm going to sell it to Lynn, and Lynn says, I'll get me finance to get it. It'll only take me a month. So I've done the work before we bought it. We then bridged out to the end value, which gives me the money to buy off Nikki. We then sell it to Lynn, pay back the bridge, and we make the profit.
Can you also put it on the market with the estate agents before you've completed?
Yes. Yeah, you can put it on the market anytime, as long as that's fine. Absolutely right.
Is it not a risk as on the land registry? It's still in the other person's name.
Okay. Is there a risk? So what you need to do in the contracts, if I'm going to add 60 grand's worth of value to that house, and if I pull out, I've got to pay 10% of the purchase price, which is going to be 12 grand, because 120 grand we agreed. Nikki might be thinking, oh, Christy, I've got a house worth 200 grand now, I'll pull out and just pay 12 grand. So clearly the contracts have got to reflect the fact that the compensation payable, if you pull out, is costs of works plus compensation on top of that. Does that make sense?
So that's paid 40 plus the 12.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever the cost. But there'd be a good chunk of compensation in there. It might be another 40. But you see, the reason why Nikki will exchange for £1 and not 10%, because I'm adding value from day one. So if I do pull out, she's got a house that's been refurbed. Does that make sense? So you've got a bit of security in there. So that's what I mean by exchange, by bridging before